always stoking the fire. Adrenaline is overloading, hit the mat like a fighter. They never let up, never throwing, giving to their desires. No, they keep working on their focus.
And welcome into another edition of Keep It in the Ring, presented by String Punk Entertainment, here on YouTube and my channel, Rich Mancuso. We want you to like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, I'm Rich Mancuso, as always, and we're going to keep it in the ring for the next hour, including have a special guest from the boxing community, a pro fighter, also MMA. We'll go into that transition with me. My co-host, Richard Pearson, former pro fighter, very active in so many things in the sport. Hey, Rich, welcome in again. How was your week, my friend?
Week was good. Bad weather, but besides that, everything over here good.
Yeah, well, but we keep it in the ring and we stay warm and hot, don't we?
Yeah.
All the time, my friend. Yeah. Now, fans, again, like, comment, and subscribe. String Punk Entertainment and my channel on YouTube, Rich Mancuso. Social media handles trolling at the bottom of the screen. I do like to talk to you. We're going to go live eventually in the next few weeks. We'll let you know. Ring 786 X, formerly Twitter. That's where you get me. Also, Facebook.com, Rich Mancuso, among social media platform outlets. And we have a full hour to go. Rich, let's get to it. You ready? Let's keep it in the ring. And let's begin, first of all, with the it's right now with fight season slow. It's going to pick up. Let's talk about this guy, Arturo Beterbiev, light heavyweight, retains his part of the championships except the WBA. That belongs to Demetrio Bivol. And Demetrio Bivol and Beterbiev might finally be headed to a unification fight. That's yet to be announced. It will be, my friends, I guarantee you. Now, Rich, take a look at this about Beterbiev. He is, I said last week and continue to say, a great knockout artist. The percentages are there. He's got the highest knockout ratio of any current pro fighter right now, and he did it again on Saturday night up in Montreal, Canada, where they don't hold fights very much. But when you look at the final punch stats through the end of the fight, take a look at that. We have CompuStat stats that we're going to put up to show you as I'll read them along. This is impressive, Rich. 39% to 20% of his punches were thrown. That's just part of the story. He lands them, and Beterbiev showed a different style of him, being technical as well, and it just showed more action-packed than he's ever been, which leads to the point of a fight with Demetrio Bivol, who's the technical fighter and has all the skills, including the footwork, as to who would win this highly anticipated clash, which is going to happen. Remember, knockout artist in Beterbiev, technical fighter in Demetrio Bivol. Rich?
I mean, you got, Beterbiev, he has a great knockout ratio. It looks good, it looks good in the ring, also on paper. But what separates him from Bivol is Bivol's 50% knockout ratio. The advantage that Bivol will have is he has more rounds inside of him. He has more experience inside of him. I believe they both turned pro maybe a year after each other, one in 2013 and one in 2014. So what's going to come down in this fight, I believe, is going to come down to technicality.
Technicality, and when you look at what Beterbiev did against Kaleem Smith, a guy who's never been knocked down in his career, and he knocked him down twice before the fight was stopped in round 7. And Buddy McGirt threw in the towel, his trainer, the Hall of Fame trainer. That was impressive. Smith has never been knocked down in his career. Now, this is a guy that had the unification titles at one point in the super middleweight division with Canelo Alvarez took that from him as well. But what impressed me about Beterbiev and why he is not getting recognized more prior to this fight, Rich, and now even now, is that knockout percentage, that ratio of it. In my time, I've seen fighters that can knock guys out. There's so many of them in boxing history. I've seen many of them. But there's something about Beterbiev that I noticed from the beginning. The hard right. He can, he's got a right hand and he's also got good footwork to go with it. You know, as a fighter, Rich, that footwork's so important. You get that footwork, you throw the punch, it's working, and he's not ducking anyone. And this is the fight, would be a mega fight. Him and Bivol obviously would be pay-per-view, and I know the promoters will put this together.
That's all good points that you're making, but you got to remember, Bivol is a person who actually knows how to, suppress one's, punch output, also their punch power. We watched him do that against, Canelo Alvarez. He sat there, he sat against the ropes. His defense is impeccable. It's something that most fighters who's considered punchers don't know how to actually break through. And he also has a good punch output. He has a very sharp jab, very straight right hand.
Now, Rich, let's look ahead, because we know that this is a fight that will be towards unification of another title in the 4-belt title era. We had about 2 of them in the last year, and they didn't last long. But this will be inevitable. It's got to happen. Fans want fights. The promoters are starting to work together more between the streaming networks and putting a fight of this magnitude together.
The fans,
the light heavyweight, and the light heavyweight division, the light heavyweight division has been centered around Dimitri Bivol the last few years, but Arturo Beterbiev has been in the background. Now this is his time. He called it out. He said after his win against Smith Saturday night, let's put it together. Let's do it. We'll do it. What do you think the chances is of happening by June? Do you think it can happen?
By June, probably not, because, one's a Muslim, so they got to deal with the Ramadan and all of that. So they may have it maybe a little after June. I don't think they will have it that close. Ramadan is over, I believe, around April. So that's not enough time for champions like a Beterbiev or Bivol to actually get ready. They're going to need at least 12 to 16 weeks to prepare for each other.
Yeah, and Beterbiev has been more active than Dimitri Bivol. Bivol didn't fight much last year, but Beterbiev has been more active. I think he had 2 fights in the last year. And, it's a matter of conditioning and getting your training camps going. But first, they have to sign the contract. First, they have to put the purse bids together. First, the sanctioning organizations have together, which is a part of our discussion tonight as well, Rich. Speaking of that, let's move on and talk about that and talk about title unifications and spend a little time on this topic with me, Rich, because you and I, both in the boxing world, know how difficult it is to unify titles.
Before we go there, we got to understand why Bivol could be more active. I mean, not Bivol, Beterbiev. He's knocking everyone out. If you're knocking the person out, you could get right back in the ring.
Right.
When you're doing 12 rounds, when you're going to hold 12 rounds, even with a win, you're still accumulating some form of damage, and your body needs that rest.
Right. Yeah. You know that. Yeah. How long was it for you, Rich, in your career, in between fights, before your last fight to the next one, pending you didn't get stopped because there's suspensions because of knockout rules and safety? How long?
I didn't have that luxury of these other fighters. I could knock somebody out in 1 round, and the promoters won't let me fight again for 2 years. Remember, I was the B-side fighter.
That's right.
I was upsetting careers.
Not like the Mike Tyson, Hall of Fame heavyweight champ, who used to fight almost every month. Mike Tyson fought every 2-3 weeks to get to where he was. You don't see that no more. It doesn't happen. It's not possible with the streaming networks, with the availability of where you're going to put them. It just doesn't happen. And stricter medical procedures with the athletic commissions and control boards. So now we can jump to this topic about title unification that I wrote about this week on NewYorkSportsDay.com. In the 4-belt title era, you're unifying titles. However, it doesn't last long. And the reason titles don't stay unified, Devin Haney, for an example, is fighters will vacate titles and jump weight to get onto better and more lucrative opportunities purse-wise with money. The fight business, boxing in general as a sport, to me, suffers from that because fans want to see one unified champion. Oscar DeLaHoya, the promoter of Golden Boy, the Hall of Fame former champion, has come out and said the fights need to be made for the fans. We have to unify titles. And that's what they're trying to do. But as I wrote on NewYorkSportsDay.com, that's still posted, and fans, I encourage you to log on and read my column. It's difficult to do. There are any number of variables involved. In particular, Richard, there's various alphabet soup sanctioning organizations, WBC, WBA, IBF, WBO, and so on and so on. And because those sanctioning organizations get a take of everything besides the respective athletic commissions and everything else, but more so, sanctioning bodies, who's got a champion? Can you, as a fight person like me, identify who the champion is in each division? Who's may be unified in each division? Oscar DeLaHoya would like to see an end to this, and I give him a lot of credit for that. I don't know how many other promoters are on ship with that.
They're not going to be, because think about it. If you have multiple belts, then one promoter can have multiple champions. So they're not going to sit and just, take away all these belts. To take away all the belts is like asking to take away all the all of the networks. It's big business. Now if you want to unify the belts, every fighter want to do that, because that's just part of history. That's just something that it's bragging rights. But you take the most lucrative belt. Like everybody you want to walk around with that WBC of all of them. Everybody wants the green.
Everybody wants the green because the green is the history. Very reputed, out of Mexico City, Jose Sulaiman. Everyone wants the green because there's supposedly more money involved. Everyone wants the green because when you get rated by the WBC, that means you're on the top.
Yep.
Everyone wants the green over the WBA that doesn't have a real color, or the others, because again, they're the most reputed organization in boxing. However, to me, they don't do it right, because sanctioning fees are killing promoters. Sanctioning fees are killing the fighters and the managers that want to get their fighters on top of at the top level. And to me, that's a major problem for the sport that'll never get corrected, because you don't have unity, a national boxing commission, which they don't want.
Yeah, I mean that's the origins of boxing. Boxing has always have some form of corruption or disadvantages. Somebody's getting over on somebody else. That's always been a sport of boxing. It's going to come down to actually the fighters. The promoter could say what he want to say. Oscar DeLaHoya could say whatever he want to say. He does have some leverage where he can actually make something change, but it's how far is he willing to go, and how focused is he going to stay on this topic? Sometimes Oscar opened his mouth just to open his mouth.
Yeah, well, we know he's capable of doing that, does it really well. But Rich, when you go back to Berdaviv and you go back to Bivol, and Berdaviv has 3 of the titles, Dmitry Bivol has the WBA. So right now, who is considered the champion? The guy with the 3 belts or the guy with the 1 belt? That's the issue.
They're both considered champions. It's about who. It all comes down to who's going to be the number 1 champion. So if Bivol takes the 3, or Beterbiev takes the 1, that's who we would call champion. Until then, there's 2 champions.
Yeah, and I think that adds to the confusion of all this, and to the add to the mix is, you have, to me, the 2 reputed titles, and of course WBC always will be my number 1. The WBA or the IBF could be 3 reputed titles. I mean, the WBO came into being 20 years ago out of nowhere. And the other offsprings of these titles, NABF, blah, 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 alphabet soup, that's a way also to propel fighters into getting rated. I have nothing against that, but you don't have to give them another title to show for that, because it just adds to the confusion. I believe there's also a belt called the IOF, whatever that is. Sounds like a UFO. I don't know.
What is that?
I have no idea. I don't know. Alphabet soup, as I call it, which adds to the confusion, what makes the boxing fan go crazy and makes the non-boxing fan wonder, Well, I can't be a fan of this. I don't know who the champion is.
Yeah, I mean, diehard fans, hardcore fans of boxing is dealing with this frustration, but the average person actually tuning in, they're they're not paying attention to any of this. They just want to see the violence. You know, it's men like such as you and I that's always going to feel some type of way about it because we do want one champion to be able to say that's the champion of the world. You know,
Well,
but
do you agree with this, Rich? When a fighter unifies titles such as Terrence Crawford did last year against Errol Spence Jr. to unify 147, the welterweight division, and then Terrence decides he's going to go to 154, and in turn is no longer considered the welterweight champion, unified champion of the world. In fact, there's talk today that Terrence Crawford and Tszyu might be headed to a clash at 154. To give you an example. Crawford did what he had to do to unify and is no longer unified. Devin Haney did what he had to do to unify, is no more not unified no more. The heavyweight division clash, and we're going to talk about that too, coming up next month with Tyson Fury, WBC, Alexander Usyk out of the Ukraine, who has the other 3 titles to the heavyweight title mix. They're going to try and unify. Guarantee you, as I wrote in my column, NewYorkSportsDay.com also, guarantee you, if there's not a rematch because of something that happened in the first fight that didn't go the right way, and it could lead to that, as we know it always does, because it's more money and so forth, guarantee title gets unified, it won't be unified very long. I have a major issue with that.
I mean, like you said it. You said it. You said it exactly. It's about the money. You know, this is why when some fighters actually do unify the belts, they throw the belts away because they don't want to deal with certain fights that won't have any money inside of it. Example, Crawford threw his belt away. Why? He didn't want to face Boots. He don't feel as though there's no money inside that fight. So for Boots not to be his mandatory, what you do, you get rid of the belt. So the unification, it isn't. That's a thing of the past. You got to be a old school fighter to understand the passion of watching a unification and a unification being held. These new fighters, they don't want that. It's all about the money.
How long you go back with the sport, Rich?
How long do I go back?
Yeah.
Ray Leonard.
See, I go before that. And the heavyweight division was the face of the sport. And Muhammad Ali was the champion. When he was the champion, he was the only heavyweight champion of the world. Of course, we know what happened with Lennox Lewis, Riddick Bowe. We know the titles was put in the garbage can back in history later on after that. Growing up, Ali, Frazier, Norton, so forth, George Foreman, we had one heavyweight champion of the world. We had one champion we could recognize, especially with the face of the sport, the heavyweight division. And as years progressed, and as the TV networks got more involved, and as the sanctioning organizations grew, there was more than one heavyweight champion. Going back in time, when I remember growing up as a boxing fan, as I became so much in love with this great sport, and I saw Muhammad Ali, I recognized the face. I could say he was the heavyweight champion of the world. When he fought Joe Frazier, I could say they were fighting for the heavyweight championship of the world. They weren't fighting for WBC, WBA, IBF, IBO, or whatever alphabet soup. That I have a major issue with. I know it'll never go back that way to be the same. The only way we could see some unity, the only way we could see reform, as I call it, is a national boxing commission, which will never happen.
Never. It's never going to happen. So many different things would change. I mean, you got to think about it, Mancuso. Just state athletic commission in different states have different rules. You know, some states you need, you know, a CAT scan and an EKG. Some states you just need blood work. So it's like the DMV. You know, every state has different driving rules, just like boxing. So the commission is not going to become one. That's not happening.
It's called unity. And it's also called Reform. And I leave you with that. And again, folks, if you want to read more about it, if you haven't already, log on to my column on NewYorkSportsDay.com, where I go into this issue a little bit. In the weeks to come, we're going to analyze this even more because there's going to be more unification title bouts. We talk about Bivol, Beterbiev. We're also going to be looking at Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk in the heavyweight division coming up, Saudi Arabia, middle of next month on the Zone. Now, we talk about the heavyweight division as it continues, and this week it was announced officially Anthony Joshua, who's on a winning streak again and vying for that heavyweight title, and his promoter, Eddie Hearn, has said that the heavyweight division title will have to go through Anthony Joshua. Agree with that or not? It's up to you. But Francis Ngannou, the former UFC fighter with one pro fight, who gave Tyson Fury the fight of his life, well, they're going to get it on in Saudi Arabia on March 8th. It is now official.
Yeah, that's going to be a good fight right there. You know, March 8th. It's going to come down to the testing of one's heart. You know, and we all know Joshua. He doesn't have it all inside of his chest. We watched him go through that. You know, he has the body, he has the power, but he doesn't have the heart.
Well, I tend to think that Anthony Joshua will go back and forth with his career. And after the first fight with Ruiz that we discussed last week, that was like his downfall and was unexpected, an upset of the year in Madison Square Garden. But he kind of rebounded and then fell apart again. But now he's on this winning streak again. He's motivated more than ever. I think he's clear now, and clear that he has his promoter Eddie Hearn in his corner, and he's getting ready for the big fights. He's in line.
This is a lot
he
of
wins
pressure.
this fight. Yeah, he wins this fight. He fights for the title. He's number one to get a title shot again.
Yeah, I mean, but this is a lot of pressure for Anthony Joshua. It is. I mean, he's fighting a guy who shouldn't be inside the boxing ring. You know, he's fighting a guy who took, you know, Tyson Fury to a beatdown. You know, he gave Tyson a really good fight. This is a lot of pressure on Joshua, and Joshua doesn't really perform well mentally off pressure. He folds under a lot of pressure.
That's another issue too, that this guy Ngannou comes out of the UFC, becomes a pro fighter, and his first pro fight didn't get the win many thought he did, and immediately is prominent and immediately is in line for the heavyweight title. How do you think all the other top-rated heavyweights feel right now?
I mean, it's they all know that it was supposed to just be a gimmick. It was almost supposed to be like a Jake Paul fight. You know, it's supposed to be like Floyd Mayweather and you know, the MMA fight. I forgot his name. You know, the guy
Conor McGregor.
Yeah, McGregor.
Conor McGregor. How can we forget Conor McGregor?
Because he's a joke, man. He's too much. But like him, you take Floyd having that sparring session. You take the Jake Paul fights. You take all of that, and then you look at the heavyweight division. The heavyweight division was pulling the same thing. Nobody knew that this man was going to come in there and apply that kind of pressure.
No,
and throw these punches. You know,
even though he's an MMA fighter. He fooled the boxing world. He fooled the experts. He really did.
He's an MMA fighter. That was his first boxing. That was his first professional boxing match, which makes him supposedly an amateur fighter. He wasn't supposed to look that good.
No, well, Tyson Fury also, I think, took him very lightly as well. I think he thought this was going to he'd win this easily. And
that's what I'm saying.
He may not trained hard enough. That's it. So that's a fight we're going to look at coming in March 8th. Fights are being made. There's a lot of talk about this and that. We do know this came out also that Sandor Martin, that pushed Teofimo Lopez to eliminate Madison Square Garden about a year or so ago. He's the number one junior welterweight contender now. Top Rank signed him to a multi-fight deal just a day ago. He's going to be up there for a world title opportunity. That'll secure it with Top Rank for sure. And, Sandor Martin made a name for himself against Teofimo Lopez. We know nothing about this unheralded guy till he fought Teofimo and almost beat him. Many thought he did beat him in the Garden that night in the Garden. So they are making fights, Rich. Lomachenko, the former lightweight unified champion, supposedly. If you look at the WBC again with this lineal bullshit, okay?
I really don't like the sanction.
Yeah, the lineal, lineal world, lunar orbit, I call it. Against George Kambosos Jr., the former supposedly unified lightweight champion that Teofimo lost the titles to. They're going to fight for the IBF vacant title May 12th in Australia in Kambosos' backyard. Interesting fight, implications for both.
Yeah, I mean, they both good fighters, but you got to get nervous the minute you in somebody's backyard. The minute you inside somebody's backyard, if you're not walking off with the knockout, 9 times out of 10, you ain't walking off with the W. So that's going to be a tough one right there.
And in 2 weeks on the Zone, January 27th, looking forward to the Golden Boy promotion show. Jaime Mugabe versus John Ryder, the guy that gave Canelo Alvarez a tough time. 168 is the fight. That's the main event. Implications in that fight for Jaime. Because if Jaime wins that fight, of course, he's in the title mix now. But, you got David Benavidez, who's supposed to be the mandatory, to Canelo Alvarez at some point this year. God, I only know that's got to happen, that fight.
You think it would?
I think it will, but again, we got to go through sanctioning organizations. We got to go through promoters. We got to go through purse bids. We got to go through what I call boxing politics, and it sucks because that's a fight. Ben Benitez and Canelo Alvarez is a fight fans deserve to get. Again, going back to what Oscar DeLaHoya says, Richard, you got to make the fights for the fans. And I credit DeLaHoya for that. All right, Rich, more to come. Before we reach the bottom of the hour, we're going to bring in a pro fighter at the bottom of the hour when we come back from our brief break. Ryan Schwartzberg, who's a pro fighter and also an MMA fighter. He does MMA fights as well in between. Good discussion we'll do with Ryan about the transition. But first, Rich, you ready for the fact of the week?
Go give it to me. I'm ready.
All right, Scott Churston, our great producer in the background. It's not the fact of the week until String Punk Entertainment puts up the fact of the week logo on the board. And when I see it, I'll give the fact of the week. Well, I don't know. Scott's had a busy day, but regardless, here it is. The fact of the week this week. Here we go. Fact of the week. Listen carefully, Rich. You don't get it now, we'll give the answer at the end of the show. Now, all you out there, you're welcome to contribute. When we go live, I hope you comment. And also comment, like, and subscribe. Let me know what you think the fact of the week. Good part of the show or not. I happen to like it. Here we go. Listen carefully, Rich. It's not trivia. Remember, it's a fact. The only boxing Hall of Famer who was knocked down twice in 67 fights, but not a knockdown. It was considered a pushdown. It wasn't a knockdown. It was a pushdown. He's a Hall of Fame fighter. The only time he was knocked down twice in 67 fights, this boxing Hall of Famer, well known, was considered a pushdown and not a knockdown. I'll give you the hint. It was against John Mugabe in 1986. I remember this fight well.
Hagler? No, not Hagler.
Yeah, Rich.
Hagler?
Okay. You got, hey, Scott Churston, we got to have a ring of the bell for that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I had almost second guessed myself. Yeah.
Rich, on my other sports shows and here on Keep It in the Ring now, no one gets my facts of the week, and you got it on the first shot. And you didn't look it up. I know that.
Nah, I'm good.
Congratulations. I don't know what to give you to getting it because I don't have anything, but you know. But you got the fact of the week, Rich. Congratulations. Yeah, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, the great Hall of Famer. Remember the epic wars in the 80s? Hagler, Hearns, Duran.
Yeah.
Those were the three. What a
Yeah,
great era of boxing that was in the
that was
1980s. And I
fighting.
had the privilege of covering a majority of those fights at ringside at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas, Nevada. All right, Rich, bottom of the hour. This is Keep It in the Ring. We want you to like, comment, and subscribe here on YouTube and my channel, Rich Mancuso. Reach me on social media. Scroll at the bottom. X, formerly Twitter, Ring786, Facebook.com, Rich Mancuso. When we come back for this brief break, we'll come back with a pro fighter, also does some MMA, Ryan Schwartzberg. He's down in Florida. And take note of Danger Zone, the MMA event coming up in Newburgh, New York at the Armory. We're approaching it, Rich. It is February 3rd, Newburgh, New York. So stay with us, fans. We'll be right back. This is Keep It in the Ring.
And always stoking the fire. Adrenaline is overloading. Hit the mat like a fighter. They never let up, never throwing, giving to their desires. No, they keep working on their focus.
Welcome back to Keep It in the Ring. Rich Mancuso, Richard Pearson. Social media scrolled at the bottom of the screen. YouTube, Stream Punk Entertainment. Like, comment, and subscribe also to my channel, Rich Mancuso. All right, we'll welcome in on the last half hour of the show. We'll have them on for about 10, 15 minutes. We'll see how it goes. And it's my pleasure to bring in, we became friends because I broadcast a couple of his fights with the Bella Boxing Promotions in the last year or so. Ryan Schwartzberg out in Dania, Florida, who is a pro fighter and also does the transition, Rich, which is real interesting. I thought why we have him on. It does MMA as well. Now, his MMA career is a featherweight. 1-2-0 is his official record. Been doing that about a year, from what I understand. As a pro fighter, I won't mention the record. He's what you call one of these journeymen that comes in and looks for the upset. Yet he trains hard, has great ability. And not only is he a great guy, and I appreciate, Ryan, you coming on with us tonight. I really appreciate this opportunity to talk to you. But Ryan's coming off some last couple of interesting fights. And if you don't mind, we're going to roll some video of your last fight, or was it the fight before, Ryan?
Hey, Rich. Thanks for having me on. Rich and Richard, you guys are awesome, man. And I'm so glad that you guys having me on. Anyway, this last fight we're about to roll is against Tristan. He was an amateur champion prospect. I'm coming in here. I'm the veteran fighter, but he's supposed to win, of course. They called me on 1 week notice, and this is what I do. I'm the B-side warrior is what we call, is what I like to call myself. And I just stay ready for these type of opportunities. This is a young guy coming in that sold a whole bunch of tickets that, everybody's looking to see him progress in his boxing career and remain undefeated, but Pro Box, we have a good relationship, and they like I have a nice fan base there, having it be in Plant City, Florida, not too far from my home, but I've given them some exciting fights. I fought there before, so here I am coming back, and I'm giving this kid a run for his money. He didn't expect, these A-side guys, they always get told, hey, listen, he's a former MMA guy, he's going to swing looping punches. But, for me personally, I happen to have lightning fast cat-like reflexes, being the lion, dipping down. I seem to be very hard to hit for these guys because I leave these fights without a scratch. So, in my past 5 fights, I'm barely getting touched. I'm making these guys pay when they miss, and they don't like that. Oh, well, there I am getting a nice headbutt. So that sometimes happens because of my aggressiveness, but that's what, stifles some of these guys. It's my forward pressure, my intimidating, stuttering movement, and I call it rhythm deception. They don't know what I'm about to do next, and it's very unpredictable. So
because they don't know much about you, and they got to try and find footage about it. But now they'll find footage on you because you're on Pro Box often now on YouTube, and so they'll know more about you now. I didn't know anything about you till I first met you, and I'm glad I did meet you. I think a former fighter there would know more to ask than I do at this point. Would you for a minute?
What
Richard Pearson. Go ahead, Rich.
what caused you to what made you transition from MMA to boxing, or do you still do both?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be, unaccepting of another opportunity, if it's a good fight. But, I was a good stand-up fighter in MMA, and that took me pretty far. And I did my amateur career as a kickboxer and an MMA fighter, but I was always trying to stand up, And when I did my MMA pro debut, I got choked out, which is okay. I was winning the fight standing up, but then they take me down. My second pro fight, I won by knockout. So, after that, everybody's just starting to try and take me down. And it was for me, it was trying to keep up with the jujitsu game and stuff. But I sporadically just got an opportunity. I got an offer to fight. Hey, you want to fill in a boxing match, this weekend in Orlando? And I just took it, being completely green in boxing. It was actually against a guy named TJ Thompson, who was like he is a killer right now, and he's still undefeated. And which I ended up fighting a guy named Giovanni Estella El Rayo, which he's another 15-0 guy right now. I always fight undefeated fighters.
But you're enjoying boxing.
So basically I got the opportunity to fight in boxing, and my first boxing match I was very green and stuff, but and now I realize, like, listen, I like to stand up, but now I'm dealing with just hands. I can't even kick and stuff, and I can't grapple, because when these guys were striking me, I wanted to grab them, and the ref says no, separate, box. And
so you're breaking yourself. That's what I'm getting to. You're breaking yourself out of all of the MMA, the mixed martial arts, the jiu-jitsus, and the wrestling tactics.
Yeah, man.
How long did it take you to get to this point where you're understanding you're now a boxer?
Well, I'm not ashamed of my boxing record. My boxing record now is 4 wins, 12 losses, and 3 draws. And those 3 draws, you can imagine, are all wins. So right there, that's 7 and 12. And about 5 of my 12 losses were controversial decision losses. So I would say my record is more wins than losses, but that's neither here nor there. But it's the experience of being in the ring that's what really got me to understand boxing. Nothing like boxing experience.
You're 33 years of age, right, Ryan?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. Now, Ryan, you're 33 years of age. You got a relatively late start in getting into the flow of things, getting active fights in boxing more than in MMA. How do you? Rich basically asked you, but I find it very, very difficult to adjust, to see a fighter adjusting in both sports. Though you're doing more pro boxing now than MMA competition, but that cannot be easy for you. I mean, there's a different style in both.
Yeah, and Rich, you're absolutely right. And with full respect to boxing, I've given my full attention to boxing. I'm not doing any MMA fights, and I know I'm going to be boxing. So honestly, for the past 2 years, I know I'm doing boxing fights, so it's been purely boxing minded. So with respect to the sport, knowing that it takes that type of focus to compete with some of these A-level guys, because I took a string of losses to realize that, it took about 5 straight on the road, thinking, just gaining my experience and learning on the road, to people who I think going back, I would beat them now, but that's how I had to learn. But really it took the dedication to just focusing on my hands and my footwork, and not focusing on kicks and grappling, and stay straight at boxing. And that's how
do you have the same trainer for both sports?
Well, I picked up a lot of new boxing trainers, such as a coach like DS at DS Boxing in Boca with Derek Santos. He's a prestigious boxing coach. And
I know Derek well. I know him very well.
Yeah, he allows me into his gym to work with his guys, and he allows me to get critique. And guys are in there like Chris Algieri, who are watching me spar and allowing me to work with some of these up and coming pros as well. And that's been one of my biggest blessings to achieve higher levels in boxing, for sure.
So the training is different between the two. Like I heard Terrence Crawford actually spent 6 weeks out in Vegas in the MMA gym training with them guys to get ready for Errol Spence. What is the difference between the MMA training and the boxing training? And why would a boxer go train with an MMA fighter?
Well, when I do go to like, my home gym, which is MMA Science Academy with Roger Crawl. And he's got a lot of pro fighters there, fighters that fight in the UFC. And when I go there to work, they do all sparring, which is MMA sparring, but I go there when I'm getting ready for pro fights. And a lot of guys like to work with me to work just their boxing, but when people are working their MMA fights, the difference is they got to work on like that blood change, like working the ground conditioning and then standing up. Because I tell you, for a boxer, if he gets tackled and goes to the ground and they grapple around for a little while and then they have to stand up and then they feel that vertical blood shift, they're going to feel dizzy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but if you keep a MMA guy strictly on his hands and feet, you're going to see he's got like a more like a Muay Thai stance. It's getting ready for kicks and stuff. It leaves them very vulnerable to just hand strikes if you limit their hands. So it just puts them in very uncomfortable positions. And for a boxer coming into an MMA gym, they're probably just looking to get as uncomfortable as they can, because that's what it takes to feel comfortable in a ring.
Great insights. Ryan Schwartzberger is a pro fighter and does MMA as well down there in Florida, where it's warmer than it is here up in the East Coast, Rich. We have Scott behind the scenes with String Punk Entertainment. I think we have an image or two of you in the MMA cage as well. If we have it, we could put it up. I don't know where I got this from, but I think I took it off your Facebook page. But it goes to show, you're down there grappling on the mat, trying to get control compared to standing on your 2 feet up in the boxing ring. There you go. I don't remember where. I don't know if you could recall that, but that's you there somewhere. This is my amateur career. When I was doing an amateur career, I didn't know I was going to become, a professional fighter. I have an amazing story about how I even became a fighter, but I was fighting just as many fights as I can, just to get out of my, head, my depression, and to bring a fellowship amongst a couple brothers. My best friend's brother just committed suicide about 6 years ago. And when he did that, he just opened a gym. And I just jumped into his gym and just started training and just taking fights and becoming his fighter. And right here was one of my amateur fights with the Premier Fight League in Miami, Florida. And this fight was funny. It was just 2 weeks after another fight I did, because I was just fighting, getting experience, and just keeping things, just the momentum of things, making the gym inspired. I just was the guy in the gym that would fight on every show, just for me personally, to get my experience, and because I was tough enough to do it, and why not? Anyway, so right here, this was an early stoppage. This kid hit me and I went down, and he did some stupid little stuff, and I was like, oh man, I'm getting up. And this guy, one of my favorite guys, Ray, he stopped the fight, and I was like, oh my God, come on. So MMA is like that. It is, stoppages in both, but I'm getting more into it. I was never an MMA fanatic, but now I'm doing it. I'm broadcasting MMA here in the New York area with AMAC Promotions. So I fell in love with it. I really have become a fan of it. The question is MMA over boxing. These two sports are totally different in a way. Totally also, MMA fighters don't make as much money as a pro fighter does. But the training is similar in many ways, the physical part of it. What do you prefer, though, Ryan? Do you prefer MMA fighting or being a pro fighter?
You're saying as far as being pro MMA or pro boxing?
Either one, yeah.
Like, which am I preferring?
Yeah.
I found that there's just more opportunity in boxing. To be honest, I'm going in February, that will be my 20th professional boxing fight. I have no amateur boxing experience. It was all MMA and kickboxing and such, but becoming a pro boxer, this will be my 20th pro boxing match. And there's just, I actually self-manage myself, so I have promoters talking to me all the time about upcoming shows. You know, you're gonna fight this guy, and I know that these are A-side guys. Coming up. 4-0, 7-0. I'm about to fight. 8-0-1 Joshua Jones. And that's the level I'm at now. At a nice 6-round fight. That's perfect for me right now.
Yeah, that fight's coming up at the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Small confined arena, used to be home for ECW wrestling. I know it well. February 17th, 6-round super lightweight bout against Joshua Jones. How are you preparing for that?
Sparring. And sparring, and I'm staying very lean. I'm going down to a weight class actually that you mentioned lightweight, which even I'm not too familiar because there's so many weight classes. But my last fight was at 148, and here I go about to do a fight at 138. But I typically walk around at 145. So I'm not, and I'm just a slender guy.
What do you feel comfortable at? Like, where do you feel comfortable at?
140 is my weight because I'm after my training sessions every day. I'm 143. So I'm a very lean guy anyway. So I'm not trying to go super. I've never felt emaciated before a fight. I've never had to make that excuse before. I've never, in my own right, felt that way. But now I'm just keeping it nice and thin. So when it comes down to that 138 time, I'll be comfortable around that, so I don't have to feel that. And as far as training goes, definitely dipping into my sparring. Lately, I'm doing some weight training as well to keep my joints strong. But sparring is what really keeps me sharp and just builds my reflexes. So that's what I'm working. I'm trying to find the best training competition I can.
Well, I'll tell you, the first time I met you last year, and we did in the fighter meetings before the show, the Abella Boxing Show, and I was impressed immediately with your physicality, how conditioned you were. And I was also asking you about MMA and boxing, which you're telling us more about now on the program. I was impressed with that, and the fact is that you train every day. Richard is Pearson's a former fighter. He didn't train every day. It looks like he still does, though, compared to me. That's not easy to do. Do you do anything else besides the training? And I know I see things on your Facebook and Instagram where you're busy with vegetation or whatever you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I stay very holistic now, and I just feel that, if I just keep the wheels turning, it's just easier for me now at this age to just keep it going rather than stop and go, so I'm just staying ready and just not, there are no days off, and I think it's more important to stay ready in the battle of life. The fruits are these competitions I get to do for being strong, so I just stay strong every single day. And when these competitions come up, I kick it into overdrive and I get it done. I rest, I drink some coconut water a couple days after that, after I fight, but then boom, right back on the hammer, keeping it going. But
now, is that Ryan? Is that a title belt you have around about you right now? What am I looking at?
Title. There's a little title belt here, just a little amateur belt.
All right, look, it's something you can never be taken away from you.
Yeah, nice. I have some a couple little memorabilia. I did fight for a nice big gold world title one time, but I lost via split decision. It was a very good fight.
Well, you are. I'm going to tell you though, you are a warrior. You are a competitor. Rich, any final thoughts for Ryan Schwartzberger?
I'm hoping I'm available to be out there to see him on the 17th. If I'm able to get there, I'll be there.
We'll both be there, Ryan. Congratulations. Congratulations. And I'll say again to you that no matter what the record is, you are a warrior and you are a very good example to some that want to get involved in either sport, especially boxing, which is my passion, as everyone knows. You're a great example to that and how it can be done. A guy like you, it keeps it going at your age, doing both sports, more boxing now than ever, and your next fight is coming up real soon. 2300 Arena down in Philadelphia, and it is on March. Let's see again. Get the date straight with me now, because I forget
February
easily.
17th,
Yeah.
just next month.
And at the
It's 1 month from
2300
today.
arena. And you're fighting a guy named Joshua Jones, and
Yep.
that's going to be on Pro Box, right?
No, this is a different promotion. It's Alex Baraswa's
Oh, that's
promotion.
right. Yeah. I think my buddy Mark Abrams handles a lot of that stuff for him, and I'll be in touch with him about that.
I
so
gotta
can
get the flyer.
Yeah, so I can get down and see you. Well, Ryan Schwartzberger, my friend, this has been great. Keep us
Thank you so
updated
much.
and posted, and the best of luck to you, my friend. I'll be in touch.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much for having me. Rich and Richard, God bless you guys. Hey, by the way, I like the way you put the burger on there. Schwartzberg.
Oh, did I say burger?
Yeah, man.
Well,
But
yeah,
I've been called that my whole life, man. I just wanted to have a nice laugh with y'all before we have a good one.
My apologies to you, but everyone knows this. Rich Mancuso botches up names, and I don't know why. And there was no pun intended or nothing like that. Your name is really easy to pronounce to me too. How about I call you Ryan Schwartzchamp? Is that better?
That's right. Hey, man, I'm just grateful to know you guys, man. It's been a blessing, guys. Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to performing for you guys in Philadelphia.
And everyone else. And we'll be in touch and keep everyone posted about what's happening with you. Ryan Schwartzberg, not Burger. Ryan Schwartzberg. Keep it in the ring, my friend.
Man. Thank you guys so much, brother. Thank you guys.
Keep it in the ring.
Absolutely.
Keep it in the
sir.
ring. Thank you,
I'll
Ryan.
see you there. I'll be training.
Thank you, my friend. Well, Richard, I botched another name up, and I should know better because I know him well. It's Ryan Schwartzberg.
That's your thing.
No, but it's not good because at the later end of my career, and I'm broadcasting, I don't write that way. Some people think I'm a horrible writer. Some love it. But when I broadcast, the first rule of thumb, Rich, and you're getting into this more now, do not botch up names. Some will take it, they'll get insulted. Others won't. But, I'm notorious for that, and frankly, I do care. I really feel I'm down on myself when I do that. And I don't know what made me say burger. And he knows he wasn't a good friend. He might've just logged off. I mean, if I called Mike Tyson something that didn't pronounce his name, like Tyson Burger or Tyson Foods, he'd be coming after me tomorrow. You know what I mean? Anyway.
Tyson.
But that was great, though, because we got the perspective of the transition, fighting tough. Pro as a pro fighter and the MMA stuff. And that was terrific stuff. And I thank him again for coming on. I should have asked how to get in touch with him. He is on Facebook and Instagram, and he goes under his name, Ryan Schwartzberg. So you can get him there if you want to know more, and we'll keep in touch about that with him. All right, Rich, any final thoughts? We're wrapping up the hour, fast-paced with some topics of interest, and we look forward to see if Bivol and Beterbiev can get that unification fight going, my friend.
Yeah, I'm hoping that fight, comes off soon, and they don't string us along how they constantly string us along to see good fights, so hopefully we can get that together, and hopefully we can get, maybe a Tank Davis and a Haney in the future.
Yeah, and of course, Usyk and Fury again coming up mid-next month in Saudi Arabia. There are no major fights on the docket this weekend. It's a slow weekend. There are fights all over the place, but nothing major. We'll give a wrap-up about that and see what happens. Sometimes on mid-major or mid-fight cards that are not really significant, things happen and have to be discussed. So we'll be looking out for that this weekend. And usually the boxing world at this time gives way to the NFL playoffs and gives way to other sports that are going on. They take a little hiatus this time of year. It's not considered boxing season. Boxing
Yeah.
season starts really in March and April.
Yeah,
But we got a
springtime.
couple of good ones coming up in between, and of course we'll keep everyone posted. Rich, great job again, my friend. You're becoming very good at this, and I thank you again.
I thank you for having me on.
Well, you're the co-host of Keep It in the Ring. We're presented by String Punk Entertainment every week here on YouTube and my channel, Rich Mancuso. So I want you to like, comment, and subscribe, folks, on both channels. That would be much appreciated. Reach me on social media at the bottom of the page. Scroll to your screen. Reach me there until Richard Pearson gets all his social media together. He will do it. He has to do it. He's now a member of the media.
Well,
It's X, formerly Twitter, Ring786, Facebook.com, Rich Mancuso, and those are social media platforms. And we'll talk again next week. We'll keep you updated what's going on and have another interesting discussion. Maybe another guest will join us. And again, Rich, congratulations on getting the fact of the week. You got it, which means next week, Richard Pearson, I'm going to make it tougher. Okay?
I got you. Yep. I'll be waiting for it.
All right. Till next week, my friends, I want you to stay warm if you're on the East Coast or everywhere else in this cold part of the country right now. Be well. Take care of each other. And as always, thank you for tuning in. And as always, Rich, what do we say?
Keep it in the ring.
Keep it in the ring, everyone. See you next week. Right back at you here on YouTube.